I'm Ayla with True You Systems, and today we're talking about things I've learned from Enneagram Type 5's. I've learned so many things from the 5's in my life, it was hard to narrow down what I was going to cover in this video, but the first thing I'm going to talk about is don't freak out, be systematic. 5's like systems, and they're good at implementing a system and staying cool under pressure and not stressing out. You know, people freak out about things. You end up going to the beach and you're having a really fun time and you dragged your 5 along and, you know, everybody's hanging out and it's great. And then all of a sudden you realize the rings that you had on and you took off earlier, they're all missing. And they're probably in the sand. And then everyone starts freaking out because they're all missing. And the 5's like, no, I'm going to create a grid. And I'm going to systematize this and go through every section of sand and find the rings and then find all of them. Like, that's not going to deter a 5. They're going to be like, there is a way to solve this problem and I'm going to figure out how. Like, I'm anxious just thinking about that. And the 5's like totally cool as a cucumber. And it can be for big things too, like everyone's freaking out. Oh no, the earth is getting hotter. What are we gonna do? And 5's are just like, okay, what do we need to modify, create, invent to solve this problem? They're just really good at not getting emotional and being methodical. Okay, another thing I've learned from 5's is that you don't have to do things like everyone else. 5's are iconoclastic, so they don't tend to just follow along blindly. They don't really care if it's like the cool thing to do. You know, 5's know that most people are irrational and that thing that's cool now is probably irrational too. So a 5 is going to feel perfectly comfortable doing things differently, even if it goes against what people say to do. Like, you can just start a business. You don't have to go to business school to do that. Business school just takes your money anyway. I mean, that's not really a good business move. Because 5's are really good at not caring what everyone else just happens to be doing, they've passed on a lot of wisdom to me and a lot of hacks for how to get around things and do something that's beneficial to you. So like, for example, I learned about this great hack from a 5 once where you could go to Starbucks and you could order a shot of espresso and a glass of ice. And then you would take that and bring it over to the area where they have the milk and the sugar and you add all those things. And then you have a delicious cheappuccino for only like $1.75. And they had flavored syrups there too, for free. Sadly, Starbucks must have caught on to other 5's doing this because they no longer have that. And unfortunately, the 5 that I knew also didn't know about that because they don't go out that much. And so years later, tried to do the same hack and it didn't work. But I've learned other hacks from other 5's, like you can go to places that have like the food by the weight and you just get the meat. Don't fill it with rice and vegetables. Take the meat home, make the vegetables and the rice at home, and then you have like dinner for 5 days instead of just for 1. Genius. And did you know you can actually join AARP at any age and get the senior discounts? I learned that from a 5. It pays to be iconoclastic. Another thing I've realized from 5's is that public libraries are actually pretty cool. You know, like most of us, you haven't gone to the library since you were in 5th grade and you had that book report that you needed to write and then didn't return the library book and all those things that happened. And so you haven't been back to the library and you might be lucky enough to know a 5 and they're like, let's go to the library. And you go and it's like, wow, this is all free? You know, public libraries, they're like a closely guarded secret. And so I feel so honored that 5's have let me in on this. 5's really understand public libraries because they're really interested in being self-sufficient and learning things on their own. And they're really good at that. 5's can teach themselves about basically anything. I mean, ask any 5. They will name you a list of things that they've taught themselves. But 5's really understand the joy of public libraries. You basically can go somewhere and window shop just for whatever you want. You don't have to talk to anyone. You don't have to make up an excuse for why you're there and that you're not going to buy anything. And then you can just leave without talking to anyone and just get whatever you want and whatever you need. Genius. It's just a nice place to go if for some reason you're wanting to leave your house. By the way, if you've been liking this video, press that like button. And if you've been really liking this video, let me know in the comments below. But also, I do one-on-one coaching and I'd love to hear from you. So reach out and we'll get connected. Another thing that I've learned from 5's is that subjects that you think are boring can actually be interesting. Want to learn more about parking policy? How about rental housing markets? Anyone interested in the history of bananas? On the surface, you're like, why would anyone know anything about those things, let alone be interested in it and excited about it? But 5's are curious, and they've taught me to be more curious. And it turns out that living a more curious life is actually more interesting. It really makes the world a more interesting place. So read up on bananas. It's weird. So another piece of wisdom that I've learned from 5's is just Google it. 5's are highly rational, and one thing I've learned is to try to be more rational when making decisions. 5's are really good at asking the right questions and getting the right data that they need. You're trying to make a hard decision about something and you're like worrying about all these things, like how it's going to make someone feel or like what's going to make sense and all of this. And it's like, if you look it up, you can find out if there's actual information on this and whether or not it's quantifiable. Like, which parts of this question hinge on an empirical thing that we can find the answer to. So I can look up, what are the average salaries of this career that I'm looking into? What is the likelihood that this orchid will ever bloom again? Or should I just compost it now? I'm just gonna have to compost it. So 5's have taught me to be more rational. Another lesson I've learned from 5's is that you don't have to work hard on everything. 5's are clever. They probably invented the phrase, work smarter, not harder. Like back in the day, they were probably trying to move this big heavy rock and this guy comes along and he's like, oh, I can move it, and like tries to and can't. And then he's like, I'm gonna get stronger and like tries to move it again. And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna go get people to help me. And then the whole town comes out and they all try to move this rock and it's like this big deal. And the 5's like, no, levers, use a lever. They're like, I'm not going to get stronger. I'm not going to like get help. I'm going to use a lever. I'm going to invent something that makes it so I can move anything of any weight by myself. I'm talking like very clever, like figure out how to automate everything. I'm talking like AI. Like the 5 I knew that designed a program to do their math homework because it's like you already learned how to do that math. There's no reason to keep doing the same problem over and over again just because other people in the class need that. Make a program that does it. It's not about demonstrating that you did all this work. You already know the thing. It's about getting the thing done so you can move on to more interesting things. 5's are not going to let the Stone Age hold them back. They're going to invent something that's going to make it better. So let's all work smarter and stop doing the harder just because everyone else does. 5's have also taught me it's okay to be quiet. I worry when someone's quiet, I'm like, ooh, they're mad at me. But like with 5's, that's often not the case. And because of this, I've learned that you don't have to just keep talking like if you stop, the earth will stop spinning. Like, that's not actually necessary, and it's nice for it to be quiet. 5's are really good at alone time and about not being needy. And that's something that I've definitely learned from 5's is that you can just take time to just think. That quiet time can be a good time. Sadly, we can't all be 5's, but we can learn from them, and I know I have. So thank you 5's for sharing your wisdom with me, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this video, and let me know more things I can learn from you. I've learned so much, and from everyone else, what have you learned about 5's and from other types? I can't wait to hear from you all. Thanks again. Bye!